So, hello and a very warm welcome to all of you. I, Kuldeep Sharma, welcome you all to today's daily news analysis as well as a 20 GK question which we are going to today from the Hindu newspaper. So, let's start with the first news for today. So, the first news is regarding a recent speech made by Prime Minister Modi. So, if you may know that Prime Minister Modi is on a election spree, he is going from one state to another, holding political rallies, and in one such rally in Rajasthan, he actually made a statement that the Congress party is going to take away the properties and the property and valuables of Hindu and Hindu women, and it is going to distribute it among. It's going to do a survey. It's going to distribute among Muslims. So there is going to be a backlash from the opposition party, and many opposition leaders and political parties have asked that the Election Commission of India should consider it a hate speech crime. Should be considered as hate speech because it's a speech which can lead to, yeah, which can cause enmity between different groups. And it is a ground for disqualification. It is a ground for disqualification, which means his membership to the parliament should be cancelled. His membership to the parliament should be cancelled, and he should not be allowed to fight election also. He should not be allowed to fight any election also. So this has been the claim of the opposition party. So whether it amounts to hate speech or not, we are going to do it on a later stage. Let's see whether the Election Commission of India takes some step against the Prime Minister, or whether the courts come forward, the Supreme Court or High Court, they also have the power to take suo motu action. So do you know the meaning? What is the meaning of suo motu? So if you know the meaning of suo motu, please write out in the comment box what is the meaning of suo motu. Okay. And some of the students are very active in the chat box. They actually reply to all the answers which I asked in my Hindu news analysis. And it is advisable that you also try to find out the answer and try to write it down. Okay. So let's see how they basically judge this action of the Prime Minister right now. And apart from this action, which would amount to disqualification under law, if you remember, we have done in previous analysis also that there is a model code of conduct also. So there is a model code of conduct which is to be practiced by all the political parties. They are followed by all the political parties. And if a political party or a candidate is in breach of the model code of conduct, the Election Commission of India can actually take action against him. For example, uh, if a person is violating MCC, then a person's campaign can be cut down. Such a person can even be asked to step down as a star campaigner. So political parties can name certain people as star campaigners, and if a person violates the model code of conduct, the Election Commission of India can even ask the political party to remove that particular leader, to remove that particular celebrity from the state of star campaigners. I'm telling you this right now because we are going to study star campaigners also. Okay, so all of this is the background of the issue involved in the present case. We are going to do it in detail once some action is taken or some reply is given by the Election Commission or by the courts of the India. Okay, then we are going to do it again in detail. Okay, moving on. So next is another important polity-related news only. So here it has been reported that someone has filed a RTI to the President's house, and there they have replied that no data is available on President's returning files for reconsideration. So let's try to set the context of it. So what happened is that recently that there was certain bills. There were certain bills passed by the Kerala Legislative Assembly, and they were with the governor. So what happens is that whenever a bill is introduced in a house, for example, let's say XYZ bill, the XYZ bill is introduced in the Kerala Legislative Assembly. Then if the Legislatively Assembly passes that bill, once the bill is passed by the House, it goes to the governor. And the governor has three options for the bill. One option is to give assent to the bill, to approve the bill. Second is to reject the bill or withhold the assent. Or third is to send it to President. Send it to President. So in this third case, when he is sending it to President, it is compulsory as per Constitution to send a bill to the President if it impeaches on the powers of the High Court. अगर हाईकोर्ट की पावर को हार्म कर रहा है तो इट इज मैंडेटरी फॉर द गवर्नर टू सेंड इट टू द प्रेसिडेंट, एंड इन अदर केस ही हैज डिस्क्रिप्शन, ही मे और he may not send the bill to the president. So what happened was that there were 6-7 bills of Kerala Assembly which were passed by the Kerala Assembly and they were lying with the governor. गवर्नर के पास रखे हुए थे. तो उस टाइम में गवर्नमेंट ने स्टेटमेंट दिया कि अगर गवर्नर इन बिल पे एक्शन नहीं लेता है तो वी आर गोइंग टू गो टू द सुप्रीम कोर्ट. So what they did, so what the governor did was that it sent 3-4 bills to the president. So they sent this bill to the president for reconsideration. Okay, now we know कि गवर्नर के पास डिस्क्रिप्शन है to send this bill to the president. So what happened was कि प्रेसिडेंट ने भी इन बिल्स को रिटर्न कर दिया. तो प्रेसिडेंट ऑल्सो रिटर्न द बिल. इट डिड नॉट साइन द बिल. इट साइन द बिल एंड इट डिड नॉट गिव एनी रीजन. तो यूजली इट इज एक्सपेक्टेड कि अगर प्रेसिडेंट किसी बिल को रिकंसिडरेशन के लिए भेज रहा है हाउस के लिए, कि फॉर एग्जांपल कि प्रेसिडेंट स्टेट्स कि ये बिल मैं पास नहीं कर सकती हूँ, द्रौपदी मुर्मू सेज कि ये बिल मैं पास नहीं कर सकती हूँ बिकॉज ये कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के अगेंस्ट जाता है. ओके, यू हैव टू प्रोवाइड अ रीजन एंड यू हैव टू प्रोवाइड अ रीजन इन डिटेल. ये एक्चुअल में रिक्वायर्ड नहीं होगा, तभी तो हाउस को समझ में आ पाएगा कि इस बिल को क्यों पास नहीं किया गया, या फिर ये बिल हमें लाना है तो हमें क्या इसमें पर्टिकुलर चेंजेस करने. However, president ने बिना रीजन दिए कि what are the reason to send this bill for reconsideration, it was returned back. So as this happened, so one person, one responsible citizen actually filed a RTI. RTI application was filed to the president office. राइट टू इन्फॉर्मेशन एप्लीकेशन. एंड आरटीआई एप्लीकेशन आप आरटीआई एक्ट के अंदर फाइल करते हो एंड आप सीधे प्रेसिडेंट से भी क्वेश्चन पूछ सकते हो. अंडर दिस एक्ट यू कैन एक्चुअली आस्क क्वेश्चन फ्रॉम द प्रेसिडेंट आल्सो या प्रेसिडेंट ऑफिस आल्सो. So the question which they asked was, as of now, how many bills, as of now, how many bills or files have been returned back, have been returned back to the houses, to the houses. For example, प्रेसिडेंट के पास कोई लोकसभा राज्यसभा से भी बिल आए तो उसको भी वो रिटर्न बैक कर सकते हैं. एट द सेम टाइम अगर प्रेसिडेंट के पास कोई बिल गवर्नर या स्टेट लेवल से आए उसको भी रिटर्न बैक किया जा सकता है. इसके अलावा देयर आर मेनी कमिटीज ऑल्सो, लाइक अपॉइंटमेंट कमिटी, जो वेरियस रिकमेंडेशन भेजती है फॉर अपॉइंटमेंट टू डिफरेंट ऑफिसेस. सो अपॉइंटमेंट कमिटी ने अगर कोई रिकमेंडेशन भेजी है उसको भी रिटर्न किया जा सकता है. तो दिस पर्टिकुलर पर्सन एक्चुअली आस्क फॉर डेटा कि प्लीज प्रोवाइड मी विद डेटा कि क्या प्रेसिडेंट ने आज तक या प्रेसिडेंट ने आज तक कितने बिल्स को रिटर्न करा है. एंड द रिप्लाई फ्रॉम द प्रेसिडेंट ऑफिस वाज दैट देयर इज नो सच डेटा. So that there is no such data. And here now this RTI applicant is asking, yeah, he is saying that this is actually the breach of RTI Act. It is breach of RTI Act because it is the responsibility of the office, yeah, of the office of the president or any office of the government to keep record of such thing. To keep records of such things. So as of now, we do not know if this person is going to challenge the order in the Supreme Court or not. ठीक है, बिफोर ही गोज टू द सुप्रीम कोर्ट उसके पास अपील का प्रोसीजर भी है. तो लेट से अगर प्रेसिडेंट के ऑफिस से प्रॉपर रिप्लाई नहीं आता है तो एक्चुअली जो आरटीआई एक्ट के अंदर वो उसके सुपीरियर ऑफिसर को, आरटीआई एक्ट के अंदर देयर आर आरटीआई कमिश्नर्स, informational commissioners होते हैं, and actually he can go and complain to the RTA commissioners that this particular office has not been able to provide me with the information which I've asked. Okay, so let's see how it is gone, but I hope you have understood the context of this news headline. Moving on, next we'll look into Karnataka Drought Center. So you must know that it is also in news a lot that Bengaluru right now, or the tech city of India, is facing water crisis because of there was lack of rainfall in winters, and the monsoon is also delayed as of now. There is still time for the monsoon to come up. Because of this, Bengaluru is facing water crisis, and it is not just the Bengaluru, but for example, there is information provided that 223 talukas, so talukas are below the level of district. 223 talukas out of 236, so about 95-97% of the talukas, जो आपके तहसील बोल सकते हो, तालुकास बोल सकते हो, these are actually drought affected. These are drought affected. And what Bengaluru or what Karnataka is asking, the center should provide, that the center should provide me with funds, provide me with funds from the National Disaster Relief Fund. So there is a particular fund known as National Disaster Response Fund, not Relief Response Fund, and it has out 18,000 crores. Some 18,000 crores from the relief fund, because drought is actually a natural disaster. It is a natural disaster. A drought is a natural disaster. And if the state, if the center declares that the Karnataka talukas are facing droughts presently, then actually they can get, the Karnataka state can get funds from the NDRF also. However, the center has been unresponsive. Center ने कोई response नहीं दिया. So finally, जो कर्नाटका स्टेट है, जो कर्नाटका स्टेट है, it has gone to the Supreme. तो वन रनिंग वी शुड कम आउट ऑफ दिस रीडिंग दिस न्यूज इज कि आपको ये समझ में आना चाहिए, अगर कोई भी सेंटर और स्टेट के बीच में डिस्प्यूट हो तो वो डायरेक्टली सुप्रीम कोर्ट में जाता है. ठीक है, सो इट डायरेक्टली गोज इनटू द सुप्रीम कोर्ट. एंड यहाँ पर कोर्ट एक मीडिएटर की तरह वर्क कर रहा है. एंड हियर द सुप्रीम कोर्ट स्टेटेड कि रिसेंटली उन्होंने पहले भी ऑब्जर्वेशन करी थी कि अभी क्या देखने में मिल रहा है सुप्रीम कोर्ट में कि लॉट ऑफ स्टेट्स स्पेसिफिकली अबॉर्शन रेट रूल स्टेट्स आर एक्चुअली कमिंग टू द सुप्रीम कोर्ट. बहुत सारी स्टेट्स हैं जो बार बार सीधे सुप्रीम कोर्ट आ रहे हैं. एंड इट इज नॉट गुड फॉर द फेडरल स्ट्रक्चर या फेडरलिज्म ऑफ इंडिया. जो फेडरल स्ट्रक्चर है उसके लिए अच्छा नहीं है. सो एक्चुअली इट इज एडवाइजेबल कि सेंटर और स्टेट म्यूचुअली they sit together and try to find a solution for it. They should sit together and it should try to find a solution for it. And now the center has said that it is going to look into the Karnataka drought situation. However, the center has also said that it cannot take any action right now because the elections are going on and there is a model code of conduct going on. And the Election Commission of India's permission is required if it wants to give any kind of relief to Karnataka. So this is the status of this present news. So this is the news which you should also know. Okay, moving on. Next. So there was this news heading. So I suppose you should also read it. So this is basically that film trailers are not promises, only meant to create a buzz. So what happened was that one person, one film lover, went to the cinema hall and there he said that when I watched the trailer, there was a particular song in it. And when I went and saw that movie, that song was missing from it. So it said that the trailer is kind of a promise. It was a kind of a promise. It was a binding promise. And it was a kind of a contract. It was a kind of a contract. And what is a contract? It's an agreement between two people or more people enforceable by law. So the person said कि ट्रेलर के अंदर जो सॉन्ग्स, जो डायलॉग एक्सेट्रा दिखाए जाते हैं, इट्स अ काइंड ऑफ अ प्रॉमिस made to the film goer that you are going to get this and this in the movie. However, the Supreme Court has recently stated that trailers are not promises. These are not promises. They are only a kind of a advertisement. These are only a kind of a advertisement to popularize that movie. Okay, which means since they are not in terms of binding promises, they do not form a contract. Okay, so actually what happened was कि इस पर्सन ने कंज्यूमर कोर्ट के अंदर केस फाइल किया एंड फाइनली इसने अपील में स्टेट कंज्यूमर कोर्ट में गया एंड फाइनली ये नेशनल कंज्यूमर कोर्ट में गया एंड कंज्यूमर कोर्ट ने एक्चुअली इसको 10,000 रुपीज का कंपनसेशन दिया. 10,000 रुपीज का कंपनसेशन दिया because the movie trailer did not fulfill, yeah, the movie did not fulfill the binding promises which was created by the contract. However, now the Supreme Court has clarified that the order by National Commission was wrong. Why? Because what is being shown in the promise, what is being shown in the film trailer is not a binding promise. Is not a binding promise. Okay, and since it's not a binding promise, it is not enforceable by law. It does not amount to unfair trade practices, and there was no deficiency in service. Because of this, this does not amount to breakdown of a consumer contract. Okay, so these are kind of headings, or these are the kind of news which you should also pay attention to. Moving on, Supreme Court agrees to hear center's petition for administrative allocation of spectrum. So if you may know, if you remember 2G or second generation spectrum scam, 2G scam. So what was that scam? So usually what was happening was that the government of India used to distribute spectrum. What is spectrum? So spectrum is basically, आप ऐसे समझिए कि जो एयर वेव्स होती हैं, जो आपके मोबाइल फोन्स होते हैं, वो डिफरेंट एयर वेव्स को यूज करते हैं, एंड दीज एयर वेव्स आर नेचुरल रिसोर्सेज. these are natural resources. Basically आप डिफरेंट स्पेक्ट्रम या डिफरेंट गीगाहर्ट्ज पे आप डिफरेंट वेव्स को यूज कर सकते हो टू सेंड देयर सिग्नल्स, टू सेंड सिग्नल्स. तो मेजरली आप जब कहीं पे फोन लगाते हो, एक्चुअली में आप क्या कर रहे हो, सिग्नल सेंड कर रहे हो, और वो एयर वेव से ट्रेवल होके एक पर्टिकुलर टावर पे जाएगा. टावर से वो बेसिकली सैटेलाइट से या किसी लाइन से पहुंच के आपके रिसिपिएंट लोकेशन पे पहुंचे. Airwaves are natural resources which are used to send and receive signals. And the policy which the government of India was following at that time was actually first come, first serve. So this was the policy. So let's say you are a telecom company and you approach the telecom ministry that I want to start telecom services and I want the spectrum. So there they were asking you for a nominal charge and they were awarding the spectrum. So what happened was that this policy of first serve basis, this policy was challenged in the Supreme Court. It was challenged in the Supreme Court. Why? Because there was a CAG report, Comptroller and Auditor General ने एक रिपोर्ट दी, ऑडिट करके ऑडिट रिपोर्ट दी, एंड देयर दे सेड कि जो 2G स्कैम है, जो 2G आपका स्पेक्ट्रम पॉलिसी है, इसकी वजह से जो एक जो लॉस हुआ है गवर्नमेंट को, इट इज टू द ट्यून ऑफ 2 लाख करोड़. एग्जैक्टली 1.76 बोला था, इट वॉज 2 लाख करोड़ का लॉस हो गया. तो बिकॉज ऑफ दिस सुप्रीम कोर्ट टुक एक्शन अगेंस्ट इट एंड इट रिजेक्टेड ऑल द स्पेक्ट्रम एलोकेशन. तो जो टेलीकॉम कंपनीज को एलोकेट हुए थे, जो स्पेक्ट्रम्स एलोकेट हुए थे, एयरवेव्स एलोकेट हुए थे, इन सबको डिनाई कर दिया गया, इन सब के लाइसेंस को कैंसिल कर दिया गया. तो फाइनली एंड इन दिस केस सुप्रीम कोर्ट सेड कि व्हाट, कोई भी नेचुरल रिसोर्स को आप सोल्ड कर रहे हो, if you are trying to sold any natural resources, then you should not be having a arbitrary policy. You should not be having an arbitrary policy and it should be sold by auction process. आपको ऑक्शनिंग करनी चाहिए अपने नेचुरल रिसोर्सेज की, और जो भी हाईएस्ट पेमेंट कर रहा है एक्चुअली उसको पे करना चाहिए. तो राइट नाउ यू शुड अंडरस्टैंड कि राइट नाउ वी सेल या गवर्नमेंट सेल स्पेक्ट्रम बाय द एक्शन ऑफ ऑक्शन. तो आप स्पेक्ट्रम को ऑक्शन करिए, जो भी जिनको जो बेस्ट प्राइसेस कोट करेगा फॉर पर्टिकुलर स्पेक्ट्रम, या जितना उसको वैल्यू चाहिए, उसको उस पर्टिकुलर स्पेक्ट्रम को सोल्ड करना पड़ेगा. However, right now center has sent a petition and it is saying कि हमें ऑक्शन तो वी आर गोइंग टू कंटिन्यू, बट हमें एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव पर्पस के लिए भी एलोकेशन करना. व्हाट दिस मींस इज कि ऑक्शन कैन बी यूज फॉर कमर्शियल पर्पसेस. फॉर एग्जाम्पल अभी आपकी मेजरली 2 मेन प्लेयर्स आर देयर, जियो है और आपका एयरटेल है, और ये मेजरली कमर्शियली वर्क कर रहे हैं, कमर्शियल फंक्शनिंग के लिए आपके ये स्पेक्ट्रम को यूज करें. फॉर एग्जाम्पल सर्विसेज विच वी आर यूजिंग, इंटरनेट हो गया, फोन कॉल्स हो गया, एक्सेट्रा, दीज आर कमर्शियल पर्पस. पर बोला कि अपार्ट फ्रॉम कमर्शियल पर्पसेस दे आर सॉवरेन फंक्शन आल्सो. सॉवरेन मींस गवर्नमेंट फंक्शन आल्सो, सिक्योरिटी, सेफ्टी, डिजास्टर प्रिपेयर्डनेस एक्सेट्रा. तो फॉर दीज फंक्शन इट वांट्स कि अगर हम ऑक्शन करेंगे तो उसकी एक पर्टिकुलर प्राइस पे सोल्ड करेंगे, विच मीन्स जो प्राइस कोटेशन हमें उस प्राइवेट प्लेयर से आएगी, इट वुड बी वेरी हाई फॉर अस. तो गवर्नमेंट इज सेइंग कि हमें एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिवली एलोकेट करने दो, वी वुड लॉन्च अ टेंडर, और जो हमें बेस्ट डील देगा फॉर दीज पर्टिकुलर पर्पसेस, हम उसको आपका स्पेक्ट्रम सोल्ड करें. Okay, so right now this petition is going on in the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court is going to hear whether it should allow administrative allocation of spectrum or not. Okay, so this is the news. Now moving on to the next news. The next news is regarding a spree of Padma Awards being awarded. So Padma Awards are some of the highest level of civilian awards. So I hope you know the highest civilian award is Bharat Ratna. And I hope you know that this year. So again, I'll ask you only, how many people have been awarded Bharat Ratna this year? 2024 के अंदर how many people have been nominated for Bharat? So tell me the number. So I'll give you 4 options also. Is it for 2 people? Is it 3? Is it 4? Or is it? So Bharat Ratna is the highest civilian award. The next in line is the Padma Vibhushan. Next in line is the Padam Vibhushan. Third is your Padam Bhushan. Next, third number पे it's Padam Bhushan. And fourth is your Padam Shri. So one advice which I will give you is that if you will look at the number of recipients for these awards, usually Padam Shri is given to more than 100 people a year. Padam Bhushan can be from in the scale of around 15, 17, 10, 15, 17 and up to 50 people also. But Padam Vibhushan is usually given to 5 people, 5 to 6 people at night. So again, you can understand that remembering the name of these many people would be very hard or next to impossible. It won't be fetching any result also, because in any case, if you try to remember these names and a question comes up on one of the names for Padam Bhushan, it is very unlikely that you are going to remember it unless you are a child prodigy. But it is very plausible that you can actually read 5 or 6 names. ये तो आप याद कर सकते हो. So my advice to you would be कि पद्म विभूषण के नाम, हर अवार्डीज के नाम आपको याद कर लेने चाहिए. Okay, and knowing that what is the hierarchy in terms of the award. So knowing that which is the second highest civilian award, the answer will be Padma Vibhushan. And knowing who all have received Padma Vibhushan this year would be the another thing which you can do. Okay, these are the certain things from this one. Moving on. So another thing which has been reported in the Hindu newspaper is that in the 17th Lok Sabha, so recently ADR, Association for Democratic Reform, it's an NGO, it did one analysis and it found out that in the 17th Lok Sabha, actually there were more accused of criminal cases who won more seats. So majorly आप percentage देखो criminal people का, so जो criminal cases के accused थे, they had a better success ratio as compared to people who were without any criminal background, which is actually a mirror to the society also. So right now, actually, a report is being studied. A report is being studied in the Supreme Court, because Supreme Court ने बोला कि we need to go into this issue, which is known as criminalization of politics. तो पॉलिटिक्स के अंदर क्रिमिनल रिप्रेजेंटेशन इंक्रीज हो रहा है एंड इट्स अ सीरियस इशू. अगर आप सोचिए, अगर कोई क्रिमिनल जाके पार्लियामेंट में लॉ बनाएगा, व्हाट डू यू थिंक, इज ही गोइंग टू मेक अ स्ट्रॉन्ग लॉ या इज ही गोइंग टू मेक अ वीक लॉ विद लूप होल्स? ऑब्वियसली ही इज गोइंग टू look for loopholes in such a law. So criminalization of politics is not good for our electoral democracy also. That's why Supreme Court has actually asked for a report to be created on the criminalization of politics. And it was found that in the 17th Lok Sabha, the success rate of the criminal candidates is higher than those with clean record. And it should ring alarm bells. So let's see, right now the case is going on. The what Supreme Court says would be covered in the later classes. So such kind of news should also be read by you. Next, so from the text and context section, a very good article. What are rules around star campaigners? So although if you will read such an article, everything is provided in these time. So these explainer section which are in the text and context section, and if you are reading the explained section, or if you are reading the Indian Express newspaper, the explained section is also really good. So what here is being taught is what is the rules around star campaigns. So elections in India are actually regulated by two main acts. One is Representation of People Act 1950, and the other is Representation of People Act in 1951. And the more important law for us is Representation of People Act 1951. Uska there is a particular section, section 77. Okay, under the heading is leaders of political parties. Leaders of political parties, which in popular term are known as star campaigners. And what are star campaigners? So if you may know, जो आपके candidates होते हैं, candidates who are fighting elections, there is a limit on the expenditure, limit on campaign expenditure. उनका जो campaign का cost होता है, उस पे एक expenditure limit होता है. There is a limit on campaign expenditure. However, जो आपकी recognized political parties होती हैं, political parties which are recognized by the Election Commission of India, both at the center and state level, उनको एक ये added benefit होता है कि they can nominate up to 40 star campaigners. They can nominate up to 40 star campaigners, और जो unrecognized political parties होती हैं, they can nominate up to 20 star campaigners. ज्यादा मैं टेक्निकलिटीज में नहीं जाऊंगा, बट एक्चुअल में स्टार कैंपेनर्स का बेनिफिट क्या होता है पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज को, For example, Prime Minister Modi is a star campaigner of BJP. He is a leader of that political party and he should be a member of that political party का star campaigner बन सकते हैं. तो स्टार कैंपेनर का फायदा ये होता है कि फॉर एग्जांपल इफ प्राइम मिनिस्टर मोदी इज द स्टार कैंपेनर ऑफ बीजेपी, तो वो जब कहीं पे राजस्थान में जाके पॉलिटिकल रैली करते हैं एक्सेट्रा करते हैं टू सपोर्ट अ पर्टिकुलर कैंडिडेट, टू सपोर्ट हिज पार्टी इन दैट इलेक्शन, एक्चुअल में जो उनकी रैली के ऊपर एक्सपेंसेस हुए हैं, जो भी उनके एक्सपेंसेस हुए हैं, दोज आर नॉट एडेड, दोज आर नॉट एडेड टू द कैंपेन लिमिट या टू द एक्सपेंडिचर लिमिट ऑफ सच अ कैंडिडेट. तो जो स्टार कैंपेनर्स होते हैं अप टू 40, उन सबका कैंपेन के अंदर इंक्लूड नहीं होता. Okay, so this is the main issue. However, there are certain shortcoming also कि फॉर एग्जाम्पल कि किन किन सिचुएशन के अंदर में आप एक स्टार कैंपेनर को रिमूव कर सकते हैं, स्टार कैंपेनर को कब कब रिमूव कर सकते हैं. तो इलेक्शन कमीशन ऑफ इंडिया ने बोला है इफ अ स्टार कैंपेनर इज involved in violation, is in violation of any law in general or in violation of an electoral law, इलेक्शन रिलेटेड लॉ लाइक रिप्रेजेंटेशन ऑफ पीपल एक्ट 1950 1951 को वायलेट कर रहा है, या फिर ये मॉडल कोड ऑफ कंडक्ट को वायलेट करता है. इफ अ पर्सन इज डूइंग एनी ऑफ दीज थिंग, इफ अ पर्सन इज डूइंग एनी ऑफ दीज थिंग, देन सच अ पर्सन कैन बी आस्क्ड टू बी रिमूव फ्रॉम द लिस्ट ऑफ स्टार कैंपेनर्स. तब आप उसको रिमूव कर सकते हैं. However, presently जो ये एक्शन होता है कि रिमूव अ पर्सन एज अ स्टार कैंपेनर, so it is usually taken up by the political party. ECI recommends it to the political party. So one suggestion which has been provided here is that this power to remove a person from star campaigning should be given to the election commission of India. तो जो स्टेटस मिलता है स्टार कैंपेनिंग का, ये वाला स्टेटस अब इलेक्शन कमीशन ऑफ इंडिया डिसाइड करेगा whether such a issue should be allowed. Okay, so this is being explained here. Moving on from the economy page, FSSAI to test samples of spices, body food, baby foods actually. So actually in the last class, I actually asked you the full form of FSSAI, and actually many of the students actually replied it there also. So FSSAI stands for Food Safety and Standards Authority of India. Food Safety and Standards Authority of. Okay, and it is a main regulating body. It is a regulating body for food items, for food products in India. And what it is doing is that it is going to test samples of spices and baby food. ठीक है, इस न्यूज में तो यही है, but you should understand the context. So if you have done the yesterday class, you know the context also. So what was reported was that Nestle, which is very famous for chocolates, etc., it is also famous for various kinds of cereals also. तो जो इसके सीरियल्स होते हैं, बेबी फूड्स होते हैं, उसके अंदर में जो शुगर कंटेंट था, it was more than 30%, which is way ahead, yeah, way above the, which is way ahead of the required limit. Allowed limit जो होती है for baby foods में, उससे ऊपर था. And it has very high life long consequences. Obesity, etc., heart disease, etc. develops. जो शुगर की क्रेविंग स्टार्ट हो जाती है, वो अगर आप चिल्ड्रंस, अगर आपने बेबी एज में इन द इनिशियल मंथ्स अगर आपने शुगर कंटेंट ज्यादा लिया है, तो पॉसिबिलिटी बहुत हाई हो जाती है कि आगे जाके यू बिकम एडिक्टेड टू शुगर. तो दैट्स व्हाई ऑल ऑफ दिस वाज. अपार्ट फ्रॉम इट, देयर वाज आल्सो अ रिपोर्ट दैट हांगकांग हैड एक्चुअली बैंड, Hong Kong had actually banned MDH and FDH and Everest spices in Hong Kong. Why? Because they found evidence of pesticides in it. They found evidence of pesticides in MDH and Everest spices. So that's why now the FSSAI has also decided that it is also going to take the samples, yeah, test the samples of spices also. Okay, and it's not a very good scene for India. It's not throwing a very good trade related picture of India. ठीक है, तो ये आपके ट्रेड के लिए भी अच्छा नहीं है, स्पेसिफिकली व्हेन इट कम्स टू फूड आइटम. ओके, मूविंग ऑन. सो अगेन यूजुअली स्पोर्ट्स सेक्शन की न्यूज इतनी इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं होती है. However, you can look at the importance of this topic by seeing how widely it has been covered in the Hindu newspaper, and not just in Hindu newspaper, in every newspaper this has been very widely covered. And you have to read all of the news related to chess. Okay, so what a big achievement has been done is that B. Kukesh, who is only 17 years old, has actually won a qualifying tournament, FIDI, FIDI qualification tournament in Toronto. And by winning that tournament, T. Gukesh has become the youngest player. He has become the youngest player to, to actually participate in World Chess Championship. So remember, he has not become a world champion yet, but he has become the youngest player to qualify for World Chess Championship, which is a big deal. So whatever kind of news you found regarding chess this year, it is expected that you read it. Okay, chess related news is expected to be read. Okay. Moving on to the Indian Express. So sometimes you can actually find very good news, yeah, very good GK related item for CLAT in an advertisement also. So usually advertisements are you have to skip. But अगर कोई गवर्नमेंट कुछ एडवर्टीजमेंट दे रहा है या गवर्नमेंट बॉडी लाइक इलेक्शन कमीशन ऑफ इंडिया कुछ एडवर्टीजमेंट दे रही है तो आई एडवाइज यू कि आप एक बार उसको गो थ्रू करें. For example, you can see just by reading this app, you would come across a app which has been launched by Election Commission of India. So what it says, when I see people violating MCC, I can stop them. So what is this? So there is a particular app known as C Vigil app. तो यूजली कोई भी ऐसे एप्लीकेशन होती है तो आई एडवाइज माय स्टूडेंट कि आप इस ऐप को डाउनलोड करके यूज करके देखिए. बिकॉज इफ यू वुड डाउनलोड इट एंड यूज इट वंस और ट्वाइस, अगर आप एक बार गो थ्रू कर लेंगे यू विल ऑलवेज रिमेंबर दिस ऐप. ठीक है, क्योंकि आपका एमसीक्यू बेस्ड क्वेश्चन होता है. जैसे आप सी विजिल देंगे यू वुड बी एबल टू रिलेट कि एक्चुअल में डील किससे कर. तो ये ऑलरेडी डिस्कस की मॉडल कोड ऑफ कंडक्ट अभी इन्फोर्सिबल है. सो इलेक्शन कमीशन ऑफ इंडिया ने इसको प्रॉपरली इन्फोर्सिबल करने के लिए और सिटीजन्स को भी इसमें अपना पार्टिसिपेंट बनाने के लिए सी विजिल ऐप लॉन्च किया. तो व्हाट यू कैन डू इज, इफ यू सी अ कैंडिडेट, if you see a candidate is violating MCC, you can actually report it. You can actually report it to the Election Commission of India. And the Election Commission of India, if it thinks, if it is going to study it, and if it thinks that it has actually violated MCC, it will take action against that campaigning person. So, for example, all the features are also provided here. So you can actually upload the real-time image and video. It is GPS integrated. So, for example, if you mark a particular place where that incident took place, it will find the GPS location of that place. And third is go anonymous. So it is even not required that you write down your name. If you want to write down, yeah, you want to register an anonymous complaint, that can also be done. And finally, it directly complains to the district election officer. So it is not like you have to go through a particular system. You are directly going to report it to the district election officer who is actually heading the election in your district. So sometimes in those advertisements also, you can actually find good news also. Moving on to the next news now. So it was covered in yesterday's newspaper in the Hindu. So if you are reading the Indian Express, it was covered today. So a general advice to all the students is that if you are reading the Hindu or Indian Express, do not have a FOMO. What is FOMO? Fear of missing out, right? So do not have a FOMO that you are losing out on certain news items in the other newspaper. For example, if you will look at the Hindu newspaper, there are a lot of news. So today's Hindu newspaper is very good. And as compared to today's Hindu newspaper, Indian Express does not have that many important news. News are good in Indian Express also, but the level or the number of news which are important in the Hindu newspaper today is much more as compared to Indian Express. However, if you will look at yesterday's newspaper, the news coverage in Indian Express was much better as compared to the Hindu newspaper. So, if you are reading any of these two newspapers, one day or the other, all the news items which are important for you would be covered. Okay, so just stick to one newspaper; it would be more than enough for you. So now let's look at this news. Yesterday also we did it that Supreme Court has allowed a 14-year-old rape survivor to terminate the 30 weeks pregnancy. So if you know that there is a particular act known as Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act, and which provides for abortion laws. कि किस सिचुएशन में अबॉर्शन अलाउड. तो द जनरल रूल इज कि 20 वीक्स तक, जब तक प्रेगनेंसी 20 वीक्स ओल्ड है, तो वन रजिस्टर्ड मेडिकल प्रैक्टिशनर और सिंपली अ डॉक्टर can perform an abortion. if the pregnant woman is above 80, एक्चुअल में उसको कॉन्फिडेंशियलिटी भी मेंटेन करनी पड़ेगी. He has no right to tell it to anyone else. He does not have to report it. He has to only state it to the government. He has performed an abortion, and it was an abortion performed on a woman who was above 18. Okay. If a lady is less than 18, then a guardian is required. Otherwise, no other requirement is there. So up to 20 weeks, a single registered medical practitioner can also perform an abortion. However, if it has crossed the limit of 20 weeks and it is between 20 and 24 weeks, then in that case, it has to be completed by two registered medical practitioners. So not one, but two registered medical practitioners are required to conduct an abortion. The permission from two practitioners is required. And there are certain specific situations mentioned in medical termination of pregnancy. For example, अगर रेप का केस है, इंसेस्ट का केस है, फिजिकल या मेंटल डिसेबिलिटी है, एक्सेट्रा, ऐसे 5-6 सिचुएशन आर मेंशन्ड. अगर वो सिचुएशंस होती हैं, एक्सट्रीम सिचुएशंस होती हैं, ओनली इन दैट सिचुएशन द प्रेगनेंसी इज अलाउड टू बी टर्मिनेटेड. ऑल्सो इन माइनर सिचुएशन, माइनर का केस है, कोई माइनर है, तो भी आप 20 से 24 वीक्स के अंदर भी प्रेगनेंसी अलाउ हो सकती है, प्रोवाइडेड तो मेडिकल प्रैक्टिशनर्स अबॉर्शन को अप्रूव करें. एंड फाइनली, इफ इट इज बियॉन्ड 24 वीक्स, अगर 24 वीक से ऊपर है, इवन दो इट्स अ माइनर एक्सेट्रा, ऊपर के कंडीशंस भी आपके अप्लाई नहीं होते हैं. ओनली इन टू सिचुएशंस अ प्रेगनेंसी इज अलाउड टू बी अबॉर्टेड. वन इज कि इफ देयर इज अ थ्रेट टू लाइफ ऑफ वुमेन या थ्रेट टू लाइफ ऑफ मदर. अगर मदर की लाइफ को थ्रेट है, देन ओनली इट कैन बी टर्मिनेटेड. और अदरवाइज देयर इज अ लाइफ लॉन्ग डिफॉर्मिटी, ये जेनेटिक डिफॉर्मिटी है, which is going to affect the quality of the life of the child which comes out. तो बेबी है, उसकी जो लाइफ होगी, उसकी डिफॉर्मिटी इस टाइप की है कि उसकी जीने में जीना नहीं, इस टाइप की अगर है, देन ओनली इन दीज टू सिचुएशन 24 वीक से अबव होता है तो अलाउ होता है. हाउएवर, सुप्रीम कोर्ट और हाई कोर्ट के पास, सुप्रीम कोर्ट के पास स्पेसिफिकली एक्स्ट्राऑर्डिनरी पावर्स होती है अंडर आर्टिकल 140. और उस एक्सरसाइज के पावर में एक्सट्रीम सिचुएशन में, एक्सट्रीम सिचुएशन या एक्सेप्शनल सिचुएशन के अंदर में सुप्रीम कोर्ट रेमेडी प्रोवाइड कर सकता है. तो हियर यू कैन सी दैट इट वाज अ 30 वीक प्रेगनेंसी, यानी 30 वीक्स हो सके थे प्रेगनेंसी के. सो ये 24 वीक्स की क्रॉस हो चुका था, विच मीन्स अगर इन दो सिचुएशन के अंदर, अगर ये दो सिचुएशन होती है, ओनली देन एन अबॉर्शन कैन बी अलाउड. तो 14 ईयर माइनर है और रेप सर्वाइवर है, तो माइनर भी है, रेप सर्वाइवर भी है. सो रिमेंबर दिस, 20 से 24 वीक्स में तो आपको ये सीधे दो प्रैक्टिशनर्स भी अलाउ कर सकते हैं, बट बियॉन्ड 24 वीक्स it cannot be allowed unless there are these two situations, और 4 registered medical practitioners ही अलाउ करेंगे. However, सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने यहाँ पे 142 का पावर को यूज करके दे सेड कि जो मेडिकल बोर्ड था, जो मेडिकल बोर्ड था, देयर दे स्टेटेड कि जो लेडी है या जो ये माइनर है, जो बच्ची है, इसको फिजिकल एंड मेंटल हार्म होगा, इसको फिजिकल एंड मेंटल हार्म होगा अगर ये प्रेगनेंसी को कंटिन्यू करेगी. So because of this, now the Supreme Court has allowed to terminate this 30-week pregnancy also. Okay, so this is an overview of the news. Moving on, so no prime minister. So we have already done it therein also. So Rajasthan के अंदर जो रैली हुई थी, उसके अंदर में the prime minister actually did a hate speech. Okay, and here the editorial board of the Indian Express is stating that the prime minister, no, prime minister, you should not make such kind of statements. For example, if you look here from beauty of diversity, so earlier the prime minister was talking about beauty of diversity. Now during election time he's talking about घुसपैठिए, ज्यादा बच्चे, मंगलसूत्र, etc., which is actually not up to the level of a prime minister. It does not suit a prime minister office. It is not suitable for a prime minister office to use such kind of language, even if it's for election purposes. So such kind of articles here, such kind of editorials are a good read. I'm not saying that you are going to find anything relevant for GK, but still you should try to read such kind of articles. Okay, so just have an interesting read of this article. That's why I have included it. Moving on, so from the world page, so this news is covered in both Hindu and Indian Express. I have taken it from the Indian Express. So no ifs but, Sunak vows to start migrant flights to Rwanda. So what has happened is कि UK, United Kingdom, and Rwanda has entered into an agreement, and the agreement is that यूनाइटेड किंगडम के अंदर जो माइग्रेंट्स आएंगे, इलीगल माइग्रेंट्स आएंगे, यूनाइटेड किंगडम इज गोइंग टू डिपोर्ट दोस migrants, जो illegal migrants है, to Rwanda, which is a country in Africa. And Rwanda government has agreed to take those migrants in exchange for monetary support. Rwanda has stated, yes, I have the space to accommodate all these migrants, but you have to provide me with monetary support. And the UK government has agreed. So usually what happens is, let's say if there is a refugee, जो refuge मांगने है या asylum मांगने के लिए आया, there is a United Nations Convention on Refugees. United Nations Convention on Refugees है of 1951. And under this convention, if a person, if you are a signatory and a ratified state of this convention, there is a particular principle known as principle of non-refoulement. And what is this principle? It simply states, अगर कोई पर्सन आपकी स्टेट में एंटर करता है एंड इज आस्किंग फॉर रेफ्यूज और असाइलम, देन इट शुड नॉट बी डिनाइड, यू शुड नॉट सेंड हिम बैक. ठीक है. अब लेट्स सी, एज ऑफ नाउ वी डू नॉट नो कि क्या इस टाइप के एग्रीमेंट्स इसको वायलेट करते हैं, बिकॉज यूएन कन्वेंशन रेफ्यूजी क्या कहता है कि आप उस पर्सन को रेफ्यूज डिनाई करके वापस उसकी कंट्री में नहीं भेज सकते. फॉर एग्जांपल, लेट्स से अ वुमेन escapes Afghanistan, escape Taliban rule and it's enter United Kingdom, and United Kingdom is a signatory of this United Nations Convention Refugee, then United Kingdom is bound not to send that woman back to Afghanistan. It is actually bound to give, what should I say, asylum to that person, asylum to that woman or a group of women. However, now what UK has done, it has entered into an agreement with a third country. And it is also going to provide them with monetary support also. For example, I'm sending you these many people, and to afford the people, to settle these people into your state, I'm providing you with this money also. So let's see how this turns out, but it is important that you understand that such an agreement has been signed by United Kingdom with the nation of Rwanda. Okay, moving on. China has Moizu big parliament with 6 deeper ties. So if you may know, it was reported yesterday also. Yesterday it was reported that the president of the party of president of Maldives has actually won 70 out of 90 seats. Now it has been reported that he has won 68 seats, which is a huge number of seats. So actually, you can say that he is having a super majority in the parliament. And this news is important for you. We have covered it yesterday also. It has come up again in both the newspaper today also, because the present president of Maldives, Mohammad Moizu, is actually won election on anti-India campaign. And you should also know the name of the campaign was India Out. His claim was that he is going to send all the military personnel of India who are actually working in Maldives right now. He's going to send all of them back to India, and actually he has fulfilled his promise also. And earlier, when he was the president, at least in the parliament, there were people who were pro-India. But then he asked for a election. He asked for an election in the parliament. And when now the parliament election has taken place, when election has taken place in the parliament of Maldives, therein also he has found majority, which means his party kind of right now is having total domination, total control over the legislative body also. And since he is the head of executive, as the executive body also. And it is alarming for India, because since he was working on an anti-India campaign, it automatically translates into a pro-China campaign also. And recently, if you remember also, Prime Minister Modi visited Lakshadweep, and there was a campaign also that people of India should not go to Maldives but should visit Lakshadweep for travel purposes. And there were certain tasteless remarks also made by certain minister of Maldives ministry also. Okay, and some issue, a public issue was also created, and such kind of things happen. However, it is interesting to note that although there was a reduction in the number of Indian tourists going to Maldives, there was a twofold and threefold increase in the number of tourists coming up from China. So, which means whatever loss was going to happen to Maldives because of loss of Indian citizen was compensated by visits of people from China, etc. So it is not like Maldives is suffering so much because it is now having a worse phase with India. So this is the context here. So it is important. Why? Because India also does not want that a Maldives, which is an Indian Ocean country. So there is Lakshadweep and Maldives are here only. So these are very near to Indian territory. And India does not want that there should be a friendly country to China in the Indian Ocean. Anyway, China is already developing a port in Sri Lanka, also known as Hambantota port. So it does not want ki China also build a military base or etc. In Maldives also. Okay, so this is the second. So with this, we are done with the news headlines for today. Now it's time to go through the 20 GK question. And again, it is advisable for you that before you go through these questions here, try to attempt these on the portal. So ClatPrep student, at least you should, because you have these questions on the portal, you should attempt them first and then only move to these analysis. So first question is Mulla Periyar Dam is a disputed dam between Kerala and which of the following state? So is it Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Telangana, or both A and B? So answer here is A, Karnataka. So class, yeah, students, remember this. All of these questions are from the today's Hindu newspaper and the Indian Express newspaper only. So if you have read these newspaper properly, would be able to answer all these questions. Next, which of the state has filed a case in the Supreme Court against the center for grant of financial relief due to severe drought situation in the state? So the answer is Karnataka. Moving on, what is the official motto of the Election Commission of India? So it is no water left behind. Next question, what is the current method of allocation for telecom spectrum by Government of India? So we have already discussed it. It is the auction strategy. Next, Padam Bhushan was recently conferred to Venkaiah Naidu and four other personalities. Which of the following is a posthumous recipient of Padam Vibhushan 2024? Posthumous simply means after death. So all the four, and apart from Venkaiah Naidu, all these four are recipients of Padam Vibhushan this year. So in this question, you have all the name of five recipients of Padam Vibhushan, and I'm asking which of the following has received this award after his death. So answer is actually Shri Bindeshwar Pathak, who is the founder of Sulabh International. Next, the Supreme Court has allowed termination of pregnancy of a minor rape survivor. What is the upper limit for termination of pregnancy under the Indian law? So we already know now that it is the upper limit is 24 weeks. Next, in the event of Nota getting more votes than any candidate, which of the following would be? So if you may know that in the EVM machine, there is an option for Nota also, and it is your task now to tell me the full form of Nota. So in the comment box, mention what is the full form of Nota. Okay, so let's say Nota, which means ki I don't want to vote for any other candidate. ठीक है, so let's say नोटा को अगर सबसे ज्यादा वोट मिले, in that case which of the following would be true? So will there be a re-election with the same candidates? Whether the candidate with the second most votes would be the winner? Whether there would be a re-election with only new candidates now, the earlier candidates would not be allowed to contest? Or fourth, whether president rule would be imposed in the constituency? And the answer would be candidate with the second most voter is the winner, which means as of now, even if the Nota gets 99% of the votes and the second person gets 0.1% of the vote or one vote only, still he would be declared the winner because he has got the second most number of votes. Next question, very simple question. Where is the none of the above? Okay, so I've already answered, which I've asked you in the comment box. Where is the Nota button located on Indian electronic voting machine? Is it at the top of the list of candidates? Is it somewhere in the middle? Is it at the bottom of the list? Or is it beside the candidate names? So the answer is it is provided at the bottom of the list of the candidates. So the last option, the last button in the EVM machine is actually the Nota button. Moving on, which Indian vessel crewed by two women Navy officers completed a historic transoceanic expedition in April 2024? And the answer is INSV Tarini. Moving on, which of the following is not a ground on which discrimination is explicitly prohibited under the Constitution? So, is it on the basis of religion, caste, physical disability, or none of the above? So, answer is physical disability. So, it's not an explicit ground mentioned under any of the articles. The main article which I am talking about here is Article 15 and 16. If you will read those articles, you will find the grounds there are religion, race, caste, sex, and place of birth. Which means physical disability is not a ground mentioned for not doing is not a prohibited ground of discrimination under the Constitution. Next, which of the following statement is not true about star campaigners in election? So the questions are really good today. Their expenditure is not included in the candidate's expenditure. We have already done it. So this is a correct statement. This is true statement. A recognized political party can appoint a maximum 40 star campaigners. This is also correct. Only a member of the political party can become a star campaigner. We have already done this. This is also correct. Which means the last one would be the incorrect statement. Movie stars cannot be appointed as star campaigners. So this is wrong. Movie stars can be appointed as star campaigners provided they are member of that particular political party. Moving on. Siachen Glacier holds the tag of the highest battlefield of the world. Which operation did the Indian Army undertake to capture the Siachen Glacier and gain control of the northern Ladakh region? So we've done it earlier also. Today also it has come up in news. Siachen Glacier was in news, so that's why I have asked this question. So the answer will be Operation Breakthrough. Next is which of the following countries announced a plan to build a massive semiconductor design park? So is it India, Malaysia, Taiwan, or Vietnam? And the answer is Malaysia. Next, United Kingdom has entered into an agreement to deport illegal immigrants and to entering UK illegally and settle them to a partner country. And we know the answer is Rwanda. Next, what is the official name of the Maldives Parliament? So it's a really good question. So it is not like every parliament is known as parliament. There are certain names. For example, even the Indian Parliament is known as Sansad Bhavan, and the Maldives Parliament is known as People's Mud. Moving on, who is the author of the book Annihilation of Caste? So answer here is B.R. Ambedkar. So it's also a static question, but a very good question. Next, till recently, what was the age limit to buy new health insurance policy? Now removed by the Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority of India. So earlier there was an age limit. So once you cross that particular age limit, you were no longer allowed to buy new health insurance policy. You could only renew your earlier health policy. However, now the age limit has been removed. So you can be of 100 years age. You can be 100 years old. You can still buy a new health insurance policy. And earlier the age limit was 65. Moving on, which of the following was the largest recipient of foreign capital in 2023? सबसे ज़्यादा FDI foreign direct investment, FPI foreign portfolio investment was received by which country? And it is shocking, but it was United States this year. Okay, so this year there was a reduction in the foreign capital or reduction in FDI in developing and least developed countries. However, there was an increase in FDI in developed countries. And the maximum number of FDI actually went to the United States. Next, who was India's first chief election commissioner? So it is very obvious that the election cycle is going on right now. So we have asked you who was the first chief election commissioner, and the answer is Sukumar Sen. A few days ago, I actually asked you who was the first women chief election commissioner. So if you remember the answer, tell me in the comment box who was the first women chief election commissioner of India. And finally, the last question, who has become the youngest challenger in the history of World Championship? So we have already done it. A big achievement, a big proud moment for India. It is D. Gukesh who has become the youngest challenger in the history of World Chess Championship. So class, that's it for today. I hope to see you in tomorrow's class with the new set of daily news analysis and the 20 GK question. And again, I request you all to first do the 20 GK question on the portal and then only look at the solutions for this. Okay, so that's it from my side. Thank you and have a very nice evening.